What's going on, traders? It's Ricky with TechBit Solutions. Thank you guys again for joining us for another live stream. For those that are joining us for the first time, the link is down in the description. If you are not a part of our Facebook group already, again, you simply have to have a Facebook account, which is free. We're over 30,000 members worldwide, and the thing that we do best is we provide a supportive community for both new and experienced traders. I'm gonna give it a couple minutes for everyone to start tuning in right now. Usually what we do during these live streams is either I perform technical analysis on stocks that people recommend. I either scan for stocks or actually talk about stocks that I personally see potential in. Overnight, I did not hold any stock overnight like I did yesterday. If you didn't watch yesterday's live stream, I held DGAS overnight, which ended up playing out to do very well yesterday. I ended up selling at $25, ended up hitting highs of like 25.70, but then came below 25 as well. We're looking at a couple different stocks today. It looks like we have a good amount of people already tuning in. I'm going to start sharing my screen so you guys can see exactly what it is that I am looking at, but I want to make sure if I'm catching you at an early stage of your penny stock or your day trading career, that we do three things within TechBit Solutions. For those that don't know anything about it is, well, we don't trade stocks based on anyone else's opinion, or we don't invest in anything based on anyone else's opinion. We only invest in what we understand and what we can manage, and we always try to plan out our trade, meaning that at least have an understanding of where you're buying in, where you're selling, and where you're going to be able to cut your losses. Ideally, the whole point of that is to actually being able to manage your risk, to keep losses small, and to keep profits much bigger. Therefore, overall, in the long term, your overall account, can continue to grow even if you see one red day and one green day, because your losses are so small and because your profits are so much bigger. Overall, your account should continuously stay in the green, and that's the whole point of those three rules. So let me just start sharing my screen and go from there. I really do appreciate you guys tuning in, but it's time to kind of get started. What's going on? I'm just going to say good morning to a couple people. Oh, that's not allowed. Sorry about that. Third day up 300. Let's go. What's up, Duck Deuces? D Phil. I should have sound. Can you guys not hear me? All right, so we have a couple people looking at Kara, G-Stat. Been trading for a month, had a profit, now took a loss. Looking at a rebound. K-Sizzle, sounds good. Can you guys not see me? Okay, sorry, everything is good. Sweet. TechBets t-shirt, yep. You're just fine, buddy. Let's go ahead and get started. So Snapchat, NE, HMY, little late on ZN. Yep. So I'm not too sure if you guys saw our position or when we were actually trading ZN live, but it was more of a momentum stock. So if we take a little bit of a step back, yesterday during aftermarket hours, this is one that was highly requested due to the actual aftermarket movement. It went from a close of about $4 all the way up to a market open of about 437. It had a pullback bounce at about 425 and then hit highs of 479 or 477. So it saw a huge spike in momentum, about a little bit over 10%, had another pullback to lows of 405. And then that's where I made up, my losses from my second trade. And it had a rebound all the way up to highs of 465 plus. But realistically, let's go ahead and just start talking about stocks that you guys personally see potential in. It looks like ZN still has a support and is still trying to hold above 425. It did hit lows during pre-market hours of 416. So understand that. And then it's going to have most likely a resistance at 450 because that's usually where it's oversold. But just know that there is a margin from 450 to $5. I apologize. But yeah, that's really just it. Yesterday's trades really came down to being able to catch it as close as we could to $4 or 420, and to sell as close as we could to about 450, as that was ideally the resistance. So it looks like it's already experiencing a pullback. It looks like it's trying to bounce. I have my alerts set if they do, just so I stay up to date. But I also want to make sure that I stay up to date if it drops below, because maybe I can catch it near the support right after the bounce. But let's go into Snapchat. Snapchat during pre-market hours So Snapchat built a support of 520 yesterday. Did hit lows during pre-market hours of lows of 1513. So Snapchat continuously has been showing signs of downward momentum since its drop point. It went below $17, which was something that I experienced like literally like a minute. Like I was trading Snapchat when it actually went sub $17, and that's why I stop lossed out at 16.99. But it continuously saw a downward trend. The reason that Snapchat had such a solid support at $17 was, I mean, that was the actual figure or number that they had set up for the IPO launch. Never actually traded at $17 since during pre-market hours. It actually opened at about $24. But once it broke that support, since it bounced there so many times, that was such a strong support that once it ended up breaking, just continued to break into that $16 support. And I actually thought it was going to break the $15 support, just because there's a huge amount of panic sellers, and I didn't necessarily understand why people overall got so afraid. But regardless, you have to make sure that you don't trade based on your emotions. You want to make sure that you trade based on what it is that you're seeing, and all the indications on trading Snapchat and the downward trend was not necessarily a good sign. Now that it's showing that $15 is more of a solid support, it is showing somewhat of a resistance here at 1580. So what I want to see is once it breaks above $16, that will give me a better indication that Snapchat is actually making some moves up. Therefore, that's where I'm going to be able to set my alert. But I also want to be alerted if it breaks the new support, the 52-week low. So I'm going to create an alert and get alerted if it goes below 1512. For those that are going to be asking what platform I am using the TD Ameritrade Thinkorswim platform. It is 100% free. Please just Google it, and it will provide you with a link on how to download it through the TD Ameritrade platform. Okay, so it looks like it has a support at around 1560, resistance at about 1580. So we'll have to follow up with this one and see if it even breaks the resistance. So I'm just going to set my alerts just to not have to worry too much and follow it too aggressively. AMD hitting too high of a resistance. Not too sure if you guys know about AMD, but if we go a little bit back, no. So I have to go a little bit further. It had a resistance at about 1470, understanding that as it's approaching that 1470 resistance, it's more on the oversold side based on this analysis, right? So it comes down to the potential for profit that's really showing based on previous resistance isn't necessarily there. I know if you go back 180 days, I believe it hit highs of $15.60. So that shows a little bit more potential for profit if it can make it that way. Which it definitely does have the potential. And the reason I say that was we called out when it had this bounce at $10, and after we saw the first spike up to $13, and it had this contraction all the way back down to about $10 to $11, we saw that it was showing signs of upward momentum, and that every time that it saw an increase, it saw a downward trend. Same thing with this. So that's why we drew these support and resistance lines. And as it continued to increase in price, saw a downward trend, increase in price, saw a downward trend, and it's increasing in price. And usually it's, as it continues to break resistance, it sets new highs. So is it impossible for this stock to actually break above, this 1467 resistance? Well, no, I think ideally, it's most likely going to hit around 15 to around 1550, kind of matching where it was before it sees another downward trend. But does that mean that at 100% that's going to happen? No, I mean the RSI indicator is showing that it's a little bit more on the oversold side. We're going to really need a lot of volume to push it through that actual $15 resistance. But I'm not too sure if AMD is actually going to be showing that, just because of the past couple of days. It's continuously been showing signs of upward momentum, but not the type that you necessarily want to see. And let's see if I can actually pull that up. What I mean by that, it's still like during right as the market opens, there's these solid pullbacks that that we've been calling out every single morning. What I mean by that is once the market opens, there's a series of panic sellers or just people that want to lock in profit, and the demand starts to fall. As they pull back, bounces at support, and then rises again, makes new highs, sees a downward trend, and then builds right through that for the following day. Same thing like this. Pull back, it makes, builds the support, continues to rise, makes new highs for the day, and then sees a downward trend. And then usually during the market open, it reaches that same resistance. So understanding that that's the current resistance, understanding that the support's most likely going to be around 420 based on aftermarket hours as of yesterday, that would give me a better indication that AMD is, continuously still showing signs of upward momentum as it's not, dropping back all the way down here, and meaning that, 1440 is most likely where it's going to peak out at. So this is just going to be one that I'm going to have to follow up with. So basically what I want to see with AMD is for it to break above 1440 or to stay above 1420 when it sees a pullback. If it starts to break below 1420, then it's not truly showing signs of upward momentum. And it will just give us a better indicator that 1440 is most likely where it's going to peak out at. So I'm going to set my alerts. So JNUG is doing pretty well. It has a resistance right around the $17 mark, as you guys can tell during pre-market hours. So it's maxing out here at 17, experiencing pullbacks down to about 1680, just kind of like it did yesterday. So it did break above 17, but that was during the very morning. It saw a pullback and really struggled to go above 17 throughout the entire day. And then again, it closed at a, in the red compared to where it actually opened at, understanding that, is this $17 resistance going to be usually where it peaks out at? I think we just need a little bit more. Let me see. I definitely want to make sure that JNUG is one that I follow up with. It's one that I trade, very actively. It's one that I call out, multiple times a week because it's one that I see a lot of potential in. But this resistance that it's showing that it wasn't able to break yesterday, meaning that it was able to break above 17, but realistically, it wasn't able to hold above 17, which is what we need it to do for it to continue showing signs of upward momentum. If it doesn't show signs of upward momentum, why would you invest in something that isn't appreciating in value? The reason I like JNUG so much is because it has such a high margin for profit based on where it currently stands. But understand that $17 is a very strong resistance because it was a very strong support. So what I mean by that, it usually bounced multiple times at 17 and then bounces and goes back up to the $20 resistance. Well, once it breaks below it, it now becomes a very solid resistance. So if we can actually break through maybe 1750, that would be a better indicator showing that it's actually making its way up to that $20 mark than for it to be messing around and having some pullbacks and making it go back below again, sub 17. So that's ideally what I see. And again, I'm just showing you exactly what it is that, or the reason that I see it struggle to go above $17 is, again, it was an old support becoming a new resistance. The more times it actually bounces at that $17 support, the stronger that support becomes, as well as once it breaks below, the stronger that resistance becomes because it's a more known, support / resistance. But once we break above it, if we can really get that right momentum, the first resistance most likely will be around $18, $18.50. And then if we can break that, there's a margin from $18.50 to $20 that it usually maxes out at, and then sees another pullback. So again, it's all about support and resistance when it comes to more of my style of trading. I'm a little bit more of a conservative trader. So I like to identify, the support, the resistance, calculate and manage my risk. And I'm not too sure if the actual potential that JNUG offers as of today is going to be necessarily worth the trade due to it being, valued such a high, price stock. So what I mean by that is I really need it to break above 1750 for it to be considered more of a momentum stock, and that would be a little bit more attractive for me because even if I do catch it at like the support here around like 1770 and then try to sell at around, I guess ideally that's not that bad, around 1720, which is the resistance that it's experiencing, it's almost about 3%. So it's just one that I'm gonna have to follow up with. But if I can get it below 1780, then that would be ideally, what I would want, as long as I could catch it at the bounce. As you guys can see, DGAS is now breaking $26, so this could have been something that could have held overnight again. And again, I called it out when it went sub 24, bought in at 24, sold at 25, and then all day yesterday hit highs of 25.78, saw pullback, closed nearly, at where I sold at $25, builds a new support, so let me know, or resistance levels become new support levels. Bounce at that during pre-market hours, broke above 26, and is now, holding above 26. So again, showing good signs of upward momentum. The overall margin where this thing usually maxes out at is right about that $30 resistance as it continues to break above. Just know that the resistance level at 27 is pretty strong, meaning that it was a very strong support, which will most likely mean that it's a very strong resistance. But the right momentum, it can definitely break through. But does that mean that it's going to break 100%? Not exactly. So I definitely think that this is going to be one to follow up with if I can't find anything else to invest in, just because it's continuously shown signs of upward momentum. So if I can, buy in at the pullbacks and sell when it maxes out, that would be ideally the plan. Man, Rad just continues to suck. Nope. That's at a pretty low point. Okay. Looks like it's trying to build a support resistance. All right, I'll start performing some technical analysis on the stocks that you guys want me to do. So let's go ahead, and if you guys have any suggestions, I'd be more than happy to actually perform those technical analysis for you. YNDX. YNDX. All right, well, I can see why you guys find this one so attractive. I like that a lot of our traders usually try to find stocks that are less than $1. Based on my own experience, and I always talk about that, I try to trade stocks that are above $1 and up to $30. This thing's nearly at that, or it actually broke above the $30 price point. So it's just a little bit more difficult to lock in the like consistent and good profit when they're above $30, just because the amount of movement that they have to see and experience within a day, which is sometimes unlikely since these are bigger companies. But it looks like they had a resistance that it built yesterday at about $28, and during pre-market hours today, it broke through that resistance, saw this huge volume spike, and now has a new support, if you guys can see here, at about $32. So it's trying to hold above $32. So if we can get a bounce at 32, that would be a good indication that 32 is a true support, and it has a resistance right around $34. It didn't even hit highs of 34, but it has this margin. So again, managing my risk, has a margin of about 5.68%. So again, if you can buy close to the support when it actually bounces and sell close to the resistance, it does have true potential. But again, it all comes down to having a plan and being able to cut losses below the support. At least that is my style of trading. So if you guys want to go for more of a momentum stock, I just always encourage at least to follow with the trailing stop loss, just because when it is a momentum stock, they can be extremely volatile, and you want to make sure that although you might be in the green, in a specific moment with a huge pullback, then you might end up being in the red and losing a little bit more than what you're comfortable with. So that's why I always just encourage to always have a stop loss. But we have my alert set if it breaks below that $32 support, and then if we can break above 40, then that would be a better indicator that it's bouncing. But yeah, good call out on this one. And if you guys know why it's actually doing this, then So Uber merges Russia arms with the others. What the heck? Oh, okay. And then this is the Andy Taxi. Okay. So this company is actually partnering with Uber, Uber being a multi-billion-dollar company, and again, increases the actual share value for the specific stock. So therefore, more people being exposed to the opportunity that YNDX is now partnering with a multi-billion-dollar company. It used to be valued sub $28. Now, due to that, merger, it dramatically increases, the actual valuation of that specific company. Wouldn't say that the fundamentals are all there, but it's all more hype and momentum. So we could actually most likely see it start to come a little bit closer once that hype or once that momentum dies out. But just because so many people are drawn to this specific stock due to the merger, and it's good news for this specific company, that it creates a high demand, and because of that high demand, there's more buyers than sellers, and then that's what increases, that specific price change. So understanding that, does that mean 100% that YNDX, that this is going to be a hold and you want to buy in at these, high points? Realistically, based on my experience, no. Usually what you want to wait for is for more of a pullback, for the hype to kind of, die out, and for it to show its true colors that, maybe it'll be trading above $28 or $29, but nothing, dramatic as this, because this is huge margin that I made up today. It's 20% of the actual, price that it increased. But amazing call out. Congrats to every single member within our group, and within the live stream that called it out. So, I didn't find this. I want to give credit to every single member that shouted this one out. So good one. Yeah, I could imagine that it's halted, increased more than 20%. So that's pretty huge. RIG. That's it. Okay, RIG showing signs of upward momentum. So if you guys can see the support and resistance that I'm kind of drawing out, I think I should actually draw these a little bit tighter to be a little bit more conservative. So it's again more and kind of closer to the support here at around $8. So it looks like it broke above $8. So this could be one that we might want to look at. It looks from the support and the resistance, it actually does make it out. So what I mean is, usually what I look for a day trade, right? Being a day trader, I want to make sure that you guys understand that I personally don't trade, true penny stocks or OTC stocks. This stock in no way. Wow, I just got an alert that ZN is down to $4. But I in no way actually trade stocks that are less than $1, just because it's a little bit more difficult for me to manage my risk. But understand that every time that I choose to go into position, I want to manage or calculate what the potential for profit is. And what I mean by that is, once I identify the support and once I identify the resistance, I simply start to, see what the percentage for profit is. And in this case, it's about 4%. Understanding that 4% profit is not at all, that's great profit. If you can lock in more than 3.4% profit every single day, then that's huge. So it looks like it's bouncing. It looks like it's now showing signs of upward momentum. It makes sense that after the bounce here at $7, that it's been showing true signs of upward momentum, just like AMD, bounces at support, hits the resistance, has a sell-off, bounces at support, hit resistance, and it does this all within one day. What I mean by that, once it has this pullback, it hits the resistance all within one day. Has a pullback all within one day and then hits the resistance. The only thing that we didn't like about this one was that this one held at the resistance and then went down to the support. So yesterday, I'm sure a lot of people didn't like this one because it had a red day. Understanding that now it's at support, so this one is a little bit more difficult than what I'm used to, because instead of a standard support and resistance at an actual dollar value, when it's slanted like this and showing signs of upward momentum, there is no set support value itself. All I can understand is that yesterday it had a support at $8. Understanding that right now it's at 809, or 808. Buyers at 808, sellers at 810. I would like to see right when the market opens if we can break above 810, and there could be good momentum. And if not, then throughout the day, I'm going to simply set my alert and see once we start breaking. So this is actually one that I like a lot more than every other stock that we talked about today. And the reason why is because it's showing that it's closer to the support. It's showing signs of upward momentum, that it's starting to curve back up. And I feel like a lot of people are going to start, moving their attention to this one because it's continuously been showing signs of upward momentum. So again, the demand is going to be much higher when it's near the support. And then the demand is going to be much less when it's near the resistance, which is going to, in a sense, lead to the sell-off. So I just want to be alerted on when the stock moves, and I also want to be alerted if it falls below the support, because then it's showing that this upward trend is done. Because just because it's on an upward trend, in no way does that mean that it's just going to always continue on this upward momentum. Looks like ZN broke below $4. So it broke the support, which is the support that it had yesterday, making its way back down to its support here at 361 most likely. But this might just be a sell-off or a huge seller. So we have a pretty big seller here at 425. All right, it's picking back up above $4. Nope. Again, just more sellers than buyers, and the demand isn't necessarily really there. But I want to, again, break is most likely the one that I'm going to be focusing on. So great call out on that one. Let's see if we can actually find anyone else. Huge pull. Yeah, selling. I've already made a video on you can simply search TD Ameritrade Thinkorswim and then type in my name, Ricky, and my video will come up. All right, let's see. PBR. We have about 1 minute left, guys, before the market opens. PBR hitting more of a resistance. Yeah, way more RSI indicators showing that it's more on the oversold side. Again, I know a lot of people don't necessarily like using RSI, but probably just doesn't have the momentum going on right now. I'd like to wait a little bit more. It looks like a true support was around $8.50 to about $8.72. That's ideally where it usually bounced at. And what I mean by that is, before it broke below $8.50, it had, a solid support here at around like $8.80, usually where it bounced at, and then would make highs of $10. So if we can get above that resistance, then that would say that now we have a new margin of profit from about $8.80 to about $10, which is about 14 and almost 15%. But as it's approaching that resistance, because people are going to be aware that that's a specific resistance, there might not be that necessary demand for it to break, above 880, and then the sell-off or a pullback might actually happen. So this will be a good one to get alerted. I have my alerts already, and maybe we could actually get alerted when it experiences a pullback. So great call out on PBR as well. I mean, this one's definitely showing signs of momentum. Wow, that thing bounced back fast. Shoot, this thing's already up 7%. YNDX fell below the support. Okay. Snapchat moving up. Where's that at? Snapchat always gets removed from my. Oh, wow. That thing really popped through the resistance at 880. Well, that's good. All right, but I'm gonna make sure you guys trade only what it is that you guys personally see value in. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna focus on rig. I really like the setup that we had on rig today. Definitely doesn't show a huge amount of volume increase or anything like that. But again, it bounced twice here at the support at $8, meaning that it's more of a solid support. Does it mean that it's 100% not going to break, below $8? No, in no way does that mean that. But if I can get pretty close to the support, if I can get in at 807 or 808, I'm only going to be risking 1%. Yeah, a little bit less than 1%. So that's going to be ideally the plan, and I'm going to set my stop loss if it goes sub $8. So I'm going to put my limit order to buy. Yeah, ZN isn't really moving up. Dang it. All right, so it looks like it's trying to have a support here at 805. So it's trying to hold above 805. I'm going to get in at 806. At least that's where I'm going to put my limit order. AMD went above 1440, guys. So I just got my alert on that. And so did JNUG. JNUG just went sub 1680. All right, I'm gonna get filled at 807 just because it's hitting somewhat of a resistance, and I want to get it before the break, before it goes above 810, because that would most likely lead to a little bit more of a spike. So, all right, crap. We get a pullback, and again, I am using the TD Ameritrade Thinkorswim platform, but I am actually purchasing my stock within the Fidelity app. For those that are asking, rig is, oh, it went up. All right. All right, 370 shares at 808. All right, filled. Okay, I'm going to set my stop loss. It's something that I do right away. So again, I got filled at 808. Again, not at the lowest point, but it's something that I feel that I can manage. So again, I'm risking exactly 1% because I know the support's at $8. And my potential for profit, as in based on what I calculated, can, based on the resistance that it could be making today, we need to get above this support line as it breaks above that. And understanding that, let me take a little bit of a step back. And the resistance is most likely going to be around like 840 to 850. So my potential for profit again is around 4%, which is more than enough for me. So look, we broke above the resistance. If it doesn't make sense to you guys, please do not trade it 100%. Okay, so if it doesn't make sense to you guys, or if you guys are paper trading, take a step back, watch it out first, and see how how it is that I do. If I do good, congratulate me, and if it makes sense later on, then great. But if it doesn't, then 100%, please do not trade it. So once it breaks above 820, what I'm going to do is, because that was a previous resistance, if I can get above 820, I'm going to remove my stop loss that I have at 7.99. Again, the reason that I have my stop loss at 7.99, I know that $8 is a support. So if it breaks below the support, I want to cut my losses because then it's not showing signs of upward momentum. I'm keeping my stop loss or my overall potential for risk small. Therefore, I'm managing my risk at 1% when my potential for profit is 4%. Again, my potential for profit being much greater than my potential for loss makes sense to me, and it's worth my risk. And that is how I personally manage it. Okay, well, now I'm down, and it just looks like it's struggling to really hold above this. So, all right. I'm trying to see if I can add a little bit more to my size, or at least get the order ready as it continues to rise. Looks like there's a slight resistance around 815. That's really what's experiencing the pullback. We're at 812 right now. Again, following up with other stocks, AMD broke below a little bit below 1440. Snapchat at 1561, so just experiencing a pullback, but again, showing signs of upward momentum. XGTI, don't know about that one. All right, broke below the support. So looks like it's actually starting to bounce, but again, a slight resistance where the old support was, which is at 190. ZN experiencing a huge pullback all the way back up to $4. It's at 406 right now. Where is it at? So again, 420 was a pretty solid support as of yesterday, and it's becoming a pretty solid resistance. Again, it's just a previous trend, so I'm not going to force my trade with CN. If it doesn't play out the way that I want it to, then in no way am I going to trade it. But I really wanted to see hold, I really want it to hold above 420, so I can get back in and hopefully sell at around 450 based on the previous trends that we saw yesterday, because I think that's a pretty nice little margin that it builds, about 7%. So. All right, I want to be alerted once it breaks. If it does break below the support at 805, just letting me know that. And that could have been a place where I could have set my stop loss at 805 if I wanted to be, very conservative with, that being an old support. But again, it did break below 805 and it bounced twice at $8. So I feel like, that support at $8 is a lot stronger. Therefore, I'm willing to risk another, half a cent, half a percent for my position. And yet I'm trading with a little bit over $3,000 per position, meaning that that's usually what I risk per trade. Therefore, with about 1% or risking 1%, I'm really just risking $30 when my potential for profit is about $120. So again, my potential for profit being much greater than my potential for loss, it makes sense to me. And that's really just it. ZN again is trying to bounce, trying to hold above $4, which is good. But just because it's a $4 stock, even if you get filled right now at like 404, 408, it's just too close to this support, and it did already break below the support. Oh, we're making new highs for the market open. During pre-market hours, there's a highs of $8.14. Can we break above that? No, it's just and rig is not one to see a huge increase or huge spikes in volume. This is going to be a little bit more of a longer hold. It's not going to be that momentum, trade that you guys might see in Connor's channel. If you guys don't know who Connor is, he's one of our momentum traders. We have him right here. So he's more of a momentum trader. He goes live as well. Bradley is one of our OTC stock group leaders, and he, obviously trades OTC stocks. I'm more of a technical trader, and I know my style of trading is way more boring. I don't lock in huge amounts of profit like they might as well, but they also risk a little bit more. Again, I'm more of a conservative trader. So if you guys like my style, thank you, I appreciate it. But if you guys don't 100%, I understand that my style isn't the most attractive when it comes to day trading. So if you guys want to follow them as well, one of the biggest things is exploring to see. It looks like you guys are talking about SPI up 21%. Oh wow. Okay. Resistance at 81. Looks like it's really showing signs of upward momentum. Just broke above 80. A lot of this might have to do with overhype if there's no true data to actually support it. Price prior placement this purchase. Okay, well that's actually good news. But you want to be that's pretty solid. Resistance at 85. Watch for the pullback. All right, pullback's already happened. No. 85. 85. Pullback. No. 88. Guys, and I don't think you guys understand. I mean, we caught it when it was at 80. Right now, it being at 88, that's 10%. This thing's gonna get halted. All right, it should have. My goodness, making new highs, 94, $1 resistance. Great call out. Definitely a momentum stock. So I know I don't trade these, but it's pretty cool being able to at least see them. And the reason I don't trade them is because it's a little bit more difficult for myself to be able to manage my risk. It's experiencing a pullback, huge sell-off. And you guys can tell here that there's huge sellers here at 89 and 90. That's the resistance. A couple of buyers here. But again, the demand for, yeah, 88. Wow. Congrats to those that ended up catching it. So great call out. Call SPI here and live feed. Oh, dude, sorry about that, man. Brandon Walsh Media, I'll give you the credit, but I want to give all of you guys a credit, right? For all calling out SPI. So great call out. Sorry that I didn't see your message. That would have been nice to see. I probably would have not traded it. The reason why is I don't like to trade stocks that are less than $1. Again, it doesn't meet my criteria. This is definitely more of a momentum stock. Doesn't see a healthier amount of volume that I want. And a lot of people might be saying, well, Ricky, look, you just missed out on from 65 cents, a 31% gapper. Again, there's always going to be profit out there to be made, but you only want to invest in what you can manage and what you understand. And I don't feel comfortable risking more for momentum trades. I found my little niche. I lock in just consistent profit, and that's more than enough for me. And that's just my solo trader. So I'm gonna end the live stream here. Just because this is going to be a very slow stock. If you guys want to stay up to date with what it is that I'm trading, just make sure you guys go within the TechBud Solutions group chats. Again, it's 100% for free. You guys just have to join our Facebook group, and then the link for the Facebook group is provided for you down below. Once you guys get accepted, on the top pinned post, there are a series of group chat links right here on the pinned post. You can simply click see more, and all the group chats are provided for you right here. The swing trading group just reopened, and as long as you guys agree to the terms and conditions of providing a supportive and welcoming community for everyone within a group, then that's all we really ask for. We want to make sure that this is a place where people can share their ideas, where people can share their best practices, and can really just encourage one another. There's stock twits where people can share their ideas, and there's hundreds of thousands of people. ZN actually just broke above 420, so I'm gonna have to end this pretty quick. But the whole point of TechBud Solutions is to make sure that we encourage and motivate one another to be the best that we can be. We don't tell you what to trade. We don't tell you, how exactly to invest or anything like that. We just share ideas, share best practices and mistakes in an effort to promote overall group growth. ZN is moving. So I'll follow up with my trade, and I'll keep you guys up to date if I stop loss out or once I remove my stop loss, once we see the break above 820. But I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in. If you guys didn't watch yesterday's video, I talked about how to start a business. I talked about my best practices that have led to my success. And then I delivered, in a sense, a small message that I think can be very useful, in the sense, spark some interest for you guys. So be sure to watch my latest video if you haven't done so already. I know it's a little bit on the lengthier side. It's about 15 to 17 minutes, but I can promise you that the message that I talk about, it's 100% honest and based on my own experience. And I think for a lot of those that have ideas to start businesses, it can kind of get you going. And I really want to make sure that I can be a part of your success. So if you think that there's anything it is that I can do to assist you in your success, please feel free to reach out to me. I have a couple meetups, in a sense, I meet up with different members within my area. And I hope that I can do that and have the blessing to do that later on and actually meet up with you guys all around, the United States. But right now I'm just meeting up with people here in the Arizona area. And I have a couple meetings planned, simply just meeting up with you guys telling me your goals and kind of like maybe asking for some tips and stuff like that. So I 100% want to thank each and every one of you guys for taking time out of your day and reaching out to me. Just know that the best way to reach out to me is within the TechBud Solutions group chat. For you to direct message me within that specific platform will be 100% the best way to get the quickest response, as well as get the response for myself, because I actually have other people that manage, like my emails and different platforms to respond to. So ZN is now experiencing pullback, and I'm going to try to see if I can get in. So I want to thank you guys for everything it is that you guys do. I hope you guys have an amazing day. And like always, let's make sure that we end the year on a green note. Thank you again, guys. Take care.